If you look at a map of South America, your eyes go immediately to the two giants of the region, Brazil to the north, Argentina to the west. But right between them, squeezed into a corner that most people completely ignore, sits Uruguay. At first glance, it looks like a footnote, a leftover piece of land that didn't quite belong to anyone else. But here's the first thing that surprises people. Uruguay is bigger than England, bigger than Greece, bigger than Cuba, bigger than the entire state of Oklahoma. It has some of the most fertile soil on Earth, a temperate climate with no extreme weather, hundreds of miles of Atlantic coastline, and natural grasslands that stretch as far as the eye can see. By every geographic measure, Uruguay should be packed with people. But when you switch the map to show where people actually live, something appears that stops you cold. Uruguay has just 3.5 million people. The city of Madrid by itself has more residents than this entire country, and almost half of those 3.5 million people are compressed into a single point at the southern tip of the country. One city, one dot on the map, Montevideo. The rest of this vast, fertile, beautiful territory? Practically empty. So why does a country with extraordinary land, political stability, and one of the highest standards of living in Latin America have almost nobody living in it? And why are thousands of Americans quietly moving to the parts that everyone else is ignoring? That's what we're going to find out today. To understand Uruguay's empty map, you have to go back to the water. During the colonial era, the Rio de la Plata coastline was one of the most contested pieces of geography in the entire world. Spain and Portugal fought over it for decades. The reason was simple. Right here, at this exact point on the map, sat one of the finest natural harbors in all of South America. When Uruguay emerged as an independent nation in 1828, every infrastructure decision was built around that harbor. Look at Uruguay's railway network. Every single line starts somewhere in the interior and ends in the same place, Montevideo. Look at the major highways. Same pattern. Every road leads to the capital. When waves of European immigrants arrived in the late 1800s, Italians, Spanish, Germans, they didn't spread across the territory. They stayed where the ships docked. Montevideo had the jobs, the factories, the university, the banks. The interior had grass. And so the capital became a magnet so powerful that it has never stopped pulling. Now leave Montevideo behind and look at the interior. No mountains blocking settlement, no jungle, no desert, no geographic barrier of any kind. The land is a gentle, rolling plain, almost perfectly flat, ideal for human habitation. So why are there no cities here? The answer is cattle. From the very beginning of colonization, Uruguay's interior was transformed into one giant grazing operation. The natural grasslands were perfect for raising cattle at massive scale, but cattle ranching requires enormous amounts of land, and almost no people. Enormous estancias, ranches covering thousands of acres, controlled by a small number of wealthy families. A single rancher could manage tens of thousands of acres with just a handful of workers. No need for farming villages, no need for market towns. The interior became what geographers call a green desert, productive, profitable, and almost completely empty of human beings. Today, the numbers tell the story perfectly. Uruguay has approximately 12 million cattle and 3.5 million people. The cows outnumber the humans by more than 3 to 1, but the cattle and the geography are only half the story. Uruguay went through its demographic transition a century before its neighbors. While Brazil and Argentina were experiencing population explosions through the 20th century, Uruguay was doing something completely different. By the early 1900s, Uruguay had already separated church and state more completely than almost any country in the world. It legalized divorce in 1907, established free secular education, built one of the most progressive social systems in the hemisphere. The result? Uruguayan families started having fewer children, not in the 1970s like most of Latin America, but in the 1910s and 1920s. Today, Uruguay has one of the lowest birth rates in the entire Western Hemisphere. Its population pyramid looks less like a developing nation and more like Germany or Japan, heavily weighted toward older age groups with a shrinking base of young people. And then there's the third factor, emigration. Every time Uruguay experienced an economic crisis, the same thing happened. Young, educated Uruguayans left to Buenos Aires, to São Paulo, to Madrid, to Miami. Today, there are an estimated 600,000 Uruguayans living abroad. In a country of 3.5 million, that's nearly 20% of the entire population living outside its borders. Uruguay has been bleeding people for over a century, and the map of its interior reflects every single departure. But here's where Uruguay's story takes an unexpected turn, because despite everything, the empty interior, the aging population, the emigration, Uruguay has quietly built something remarkable. Look at the quality of life indexes for Latin America. Uruguay consistently ranks first or second in the region for press freedom, democracy, low corruption, income equality, and healthcare access. Its poverty rate is the lowest in Latin America. Its middle class is the most stable in the region. Its violent crime rate is among the lowest in the hemisphere. Uruguay managed to build a genuinely prosperous, stable, democratic society with almost nobody in it. It is by almost every measure the best country in Latin America to live in, and almost nobody outside the region knows it exists. And that's exactly why Americans are starting to pay attention. Over the past decade, a quiet but growing wave of American retirees has been discovering what Uruguay's empty map actually means for them. Not a problem, an opportunity. Let me show you what I mean. Montevideo's Pocitos neighborhood sits directly on the Rio de la Plata waterfront, tree-lined streets, beautiful beaches, excellent restaurants, modern apartments with river views, and rent for a comfortable one-bedroom apartment, $700 to $1,100 per month. A full meal at a local restaurant, including Uruguay's famous grilled meats and local wine, costs $8 to $14 per person. Private health insurance for a retiree runs $80 to $150 per month. Here's what a comfortable monthly budget looks like in Montevideo. Rent, $800 to $1,100. Food and dining out regularly, $300 to $400. Healthcare, $100 to $150. Transportation and entertainment, $150 to $200. Total, $1,350 to $1,850 per month. The average American Social Security check for a couple is approximately $2,800 to $3,200 per month. In Montevideo, that covers everything and leaves money in savings every single month. But Montevideo isn't the only option. Look east on the map toward the Atlantic coast. Punta del Este, South America's most famous beach resort, has been transforming from a seasonal destination into a year-round international community. And just beyond Punta del Este, smaller coastal towns like La Paloma, Piriápolis, and Punta del Diablo offer Atlantic beachfront, living at prices that seem impossible. Rent for a comfortable apartment steps from the beach, $600 to $900 per month. Fresh seafood at local restaurants, $8 to $12 per person. And then there's Colonia del Sacramento, a UNESCO World Heritage colonial town sitting on the Rio de la Plata, just 1 hour by ferry from Buenos Aires. Cobblestone streets, Portuguese colonial architecture, waterfront cafes, a pace of life that feels like stepping back in time. Rent here, $600 to $900 per month. For retirees who want European charm, historic beauty, and river views at very low costs, Colonia is extraordinary. Now let's talk about the practical side, because Uruguay offers something that most retirement destinations don't: a tax system specifically designed to attract foreign retirees. Uruguay operates on a territorial tax system. This means foreign income, including your U.S. pension, Social Security, and investment income, is not taxed in Uruguay for the first several years of residency. Your Social Security check arrives in full. Your pension arrives in full. Your investment income arrives in full. Uruguay doesn't touch any of it. Getting residency in Uruguay is straightforward. You apply through the Uruguayan immigration office, providing proof of income, a clean criminal record, and basic documentation. The process typically takes 3 to 6 months. Requirements are reasonable. You need to demonstrate sufficient income to support yourself, which most American retirees easily meet with Social Security alone. After 3 years of residency, you can apply for permanent residency. After 5 years, you can apply for Uruguayan citizenship, which comes with an EU quality passport that opens doors throughout South America and Europe. Uruguay's banking system is one of the most stable in Latin America. The country has maintained financial stability through crises that devastated neighboring Argentina and Brazil. US dollars are widely accepted throughout the country, and converting dollars to Uruguayan pesos is straightforward at any bank or exchange house. Healthcare deserves special attention because it's the concern that stops most American retirees from making the move. Uruguay has a dual healthcare system, public and private. Legal residents can access the public system, which provides comprehensive coverage at very low cost. Most expats choose the private system, called mutualistas, which provides excellent care at costs dramatically below the United States. Private health insurance through the mutualista system runs $80 to $150 per month for a retiree. A private doctor consultation costs $20 to $40. Dental work costs 60 to 70% less than in the US. And Uruguay's hospitals, and particularly in Montevideo, are modern, well-equipped, and staffed by doctors trained to international standards. Many doctors in Montevideo speak English, particularly in private facilities catering to international patients. Now let's talk about something that matters just as much as the costs: community. Because retiring abroad alone, without a support network, is one of the biggest mistakes retirees make. Uruguay's expat community is small but growing rapidly. In Montevideo's Pocitos and Carrasco neighborhoods, there are established communities of American, European, and international retirees who have already navigated the residency process, found the best doctors, and built social networks. English is spoken in international schools, expat-oriented businesses, and among the growing international community, though learning basic Spanish will significantly enrich your experience. And the lifestyle itself? Uruguay moves at a pace that most Americans have completely forgotten exists. Long lunches that stretch into the afternoon, evening walks along the waterfront, weekend asados, barbecues that bring neighbors together for hours. The concept of rushing simply doesn't exist here. Uruguayans are known for being warm, educated, and genuinely welcoming to foreigners, without the transactional attitude that can make expat life feel hollow in more tourist-heavy destinations. The food culture is extraordinary. Uruguay produces some of the finest beef in the world, and a full parrilla dinner with wine costs $12 to $18 per person at a local restaurant. Fresh produce, artisan cheeses, and local wines are available at neighborhood markets at prices that make American grocery bills seem absurd. But here's what makes this moment particularly interesting. Uruguay is changing. For the first time in decades, economic activity is appearing outside Montevideo. The forestry industry has transformed entire departments in the interior. The eastern coast is developing a year-round international community, and foreign investment, particularly from Argentina, Brazil, and increasingly the United States, is flowing into real estate, agriculture, and technology. Property prices in Uruguay remain dramatically lower than comparable destinations. A comfortable apartment in Montevideo's best neighborhoods, $120,000 to $250,000. A beachfront property in smaller coastal towns, $80,000 to $150,000. A colonial home in Colonia del Sacramento, $100,000 to $200,000. For American retirees who own property in the United States, selling and buying in Uruguay can eliminate housing costs entirely, leaving Social Security to cover everything else. Uruguay remains one of geography's great paradoxes. A territory larger than England, soil that could feed a continent, an Atlantic coastline stretching for hundreds of miles, and just 3.5 million people, half of them in a single city, leaving the rest of this extraordinary country to the cattle, the grasslands, and the silence. Its map wasn't drawn by nature. It was drawn by a colonial harbor, by the economics of cattle ranching, by a society that modernized faster than anyone expected, and by generations of young people who left looking for something bigger. But for American retirees looking for something different, something stable, something safe, something genuinely beautiful, Uruguay's empty map isn't a warning. It's an invitation to a country where your Social Security check covers everything, where the beef is extraordinary and the wine costs almost nothing, where the streets are safe and the people are warm, where the pace of life reminds you what retirement was always supposed to feel like. Uruguay chose depth over breadth, quality over quantity, and in doing so, it created something genuinely rare in the modern world. A country that is almost empty and almost perfect. Before we wrap up, if Uruguay is seriously on your radar, here are 10 facts you need to know before you make the move. Fact number 1. Uruguay is consistently ranked as the most socially progressive country in Latin America. It was the first country in the Americas to legalize same-sex marriage at a national level in 2013. Before the United States. It has maintained a strict separation of church and state since 1917, over a century ago. Fact number 2. Your U.S. Social Security benefits are paid in full, even if you live in Uruguay. Uruguay is not on the Social Security Administration's list of countries where payments are restricted. Your check arrives every month in full, deposited directly into your U.S. bank account, which you can then transfer to Uruguay or access through international ATMs. Fact number 3. Uruguay has the fastest internet in Latin America. Average download speeds consistently rank Uruguay first or second in the entire region, faster than Brazil, Argentina, Chile, and Mexico. This matters enormously for retirees who need reliable video calls with family, streaming services, or remote financial management. You will not feel disconnected from the world here. Fact number 4. Uruguay's crime rate is the lowest in mainland South America. Montevideo consistently ranks as one of the safest capital cities in the entire Western Hemisphere. Violent crime against foreigners is extremely rare. Many American retirees describe walking home alone at midnight in Montevideo feeling safer than they did in their own American neighborhoods. Fact number 5. Uruguay has no inheritance tax and no wealth tax on foreign assets. For retirees with investment portfolios, retirement accounts, or property in the United States, this is significant. Uruguay will not tax assets you hold outside the country. Combined with the territorial tax system on foreign income, Uruguay offers one of the most favorable tax environments for American retirees of any country in the world. Fact number 6. The Uruguayan peso has been one of the most stable currencies in Latin America for decades. While neighboring Argentina has experienced repeated currency crises and hyperinflation, Uruguay has maintained financial stability and controlled inflation for over 20 years. Your purchasing power in Uruguay is predictable, which is exactly what retirees on fixed incomes need. Fact number 7. Uruguay has the highest literacy rate in Latin America, 98.7%. This creates a highly educated population that speaks thoughtfully, engages intellectually, and maintains a cultural life, theater, literature, music, art, that rivals cities twice Montevideo's size. For retirees who want more than just a beach and a cheap meal, Uruguay offers genuine intellectual and cultural depth. Fact number 8. You can get permanent residency in Uruguay in as little as 3 years, and citizenship in 5. Uruguayan citizenship comes with a passport that provides visa-free access to over 140 countries, including the entire European Union. For American retirees who want a second passport as a backup plan, Uruguay offers one of the most straightforward pathways in the world. Fact number 9. Uruguay produces more electricity from renewable energy than almost any country on Earth. Over 95% of Uruguay's electricity comes from renewable sources. Wind, solar, and hydroelectric. Power outages are rare, the grid is reliable, and the country's commitment to sustainability means the environment is clean, the air is fresh, and the natural landscapes are well preserved. Fact number 10. Uruguay has more coastline per capita than almost any country in the world. With 3.5 million people and hundreds of miles of Atlantic beaches, there is more beach per person in Uruguay than in virtually any other coastal nation. What that means practically: uncrowded beaches, quiet coastal towns, beachfront property that cost a fraction of comparable destinations. The beach you've always dreamed about, and with almost nobody else on it. Uruguay isn't the loudest retirement destination. It doesn't have the marketing budget of Costa Rica or the name recognition of Portugal. But for retirees who do their research, who look past the obvious choices and dig into the data, Uruguay keeps appearing at the top of every list that actually matters. Safest, most stable, best quality of life, lowest poverty, most progressive. A country that is almost empty and almost perfect. Now I want to hear from you. Would you consider retiring in Uruguay? And which appeals to you more? The culture and convenience of Montevideo, the beach lifestyle of Punta del Este, or the colonial charm of Colonia del Sacramento? Leave your answer in the comments below.